Okay, here we go. Welcome aboard to MH Live Streams. I think we're here. That's right, we're live online. This is MH Live Streams. Welcome aboard. The 7 Hermetic Principles. Now the stream health is quite low, but that's okay because I believe technology. I need to change my resolution apparently. Hey, Death Kid 24, welcome aboard, man. I'm not sure if you can hear the audio, but he reckons I got the wrong resolution. I'm going to turn it off anyway. Welcome aboard. Right, the quality might be low because I have a strange connection, but it should be okay on the replay. So the idea is for tonight's stream is the Hermetic Principles. Right, so I think we'll go ahead. Hey Warrior, welcome aboard, man. Good to have you back. So here we go. I think you'll appreciate this stream tonight. Get ourselves comfortable. We're going to discuss the Hermetic Principles, which I think will help us all get through life a lot easier. So let's settle down, have a cigarette, get ourselves comfortable before we start the show. I think we've got a few people in, that's cool. We've got a few people in here. That's all good, man. I'll test out my typing. Yep, that's all good, man. That's all good. Fantastic. Okay, let's go then. It's Thursday night. We're transmitting from MH. Oh no, it's Friday. It's Friday morning. Okay, let's go. The Hermetic Principles. So let's go. The principles of truth are 7. He who knows these understandingly possesses the magic key before whose touch all doors of the temple fly open. The Kabbalion. So the 7 Hermetic Principles upon which the entire Hermetic philosophy is based are as follows. The principle of mentalism, the principle of correspondence, the principle of vibration, the principle of polarity, the principle of rhythm, the principle of cause and effect, and the principle of gender. So these 7 principles will be discussed and explained as we proceed with these lessons. A short explanation of each, however, may as well be given at this point. So we have number 1, the principle of mentalism. All is in the mind. The universe is mental. Well, we know that. This principle embodies that truth, all is mind. It explains that the all, which is the substantial reality underlying all outward manifestations and appearance, which we know of the terms of the material universe, or the phenomena of life, or that which we describe as matter or energy. And in short, all that is apparent to our material sense, or senses actually. It's spirit, which in itself is unknowable and undefinable, but which may be considered and thought of as a universal, infinite living mind. It also explains that the phenomenal world, or the universe, is simply a mental creation of the all, subject to the laws of created things, and that the universe as a whole and in its parts or units has existed in the mind of the all, in which mind we live and move and have our being. So this principle, established by the mental nature of the universe, easily explains all the variety. I don't know if it's all of it, but it's the variety of mental and psychic phenomenon that occupies such a large portion of the public attention, and which, without such explanation, are non-understandable and defy scientific treatment. An understanding of this great Hermetic principle of mentalism enables the individual to readily grasp the laws of mental universe and to apply the same to his well-being and advancement. The Hermetic student is enabled to apply intelligently the great mental laws instead of using them in a haphazard manner. With the master key in his possession, the student may unlock the many doors of these mental and psychic temples of knowledge and enter the same freely and intelligently. So this principle explains the true nature of energy, power and matter, and why and how all these are subordinate to the mastery of the mind. One of the old Hermetic masters wrote long time ago, "He who grasps the truth of mental nature of the universe is well advanced onto the path of mastery." And those words are true today as the time they were first written. So without this master key, mastery is impossible, and the student knocks in vain at the many doors of the temple. So, number 2, we have the principle of, if I can find my cigarette lighter, the principle of correspondence. As above, so below. We've all heard that before. So this principle embodies the truth that there's always a correspondence between the laws and phenomena of the various stages and planes of the being and life. So the old Hermetic axioms ran in these words: as above, so below; as below, so above. And the grasping of this principle gives one the means of solving many dark paradoxes and hidden secrets of nature. There are planes beyond our knowing, but when we apply the principle of correspondence to them, we're unable to understand much that would otherwise be unknowable to us. This principle is of universal application and manifestation on the various planes of the material, mental, and spiritual universe. It's a universal law. The ancient Hermeticists considered this principle as one of the most important mental instruments by which man was able to pry aside the obstacles which hid from view the unknown. Its use even tore aside the veil of Isis to the extent that a glimpse of the face of Goddess might be caught. Just as a knowledge of the principles of geometry enables man to measure distant suns and their movement while seated in his observatory, so a knowledge of the principle of correspondence enables man to reason intelligently from the known to the unknown. Studying the monad, he understands the archangel. The principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. Now this principle embodies the truth that everything's in motion, everything vibrates, nothing is at rest. A fact which modern science endorses and which new scientific discovery tends to verify. This Hermetic principle was thousands of years ago by masters of ancient Egypt. This principle explains the difference between manifestations of matter, energy, mind, and even spirit. Results largely from the varying rates of vibrations. From the all, which is pure spirit, down to the grossest form of matter, all is in vibration. The higher the vibration, the higher the position in the scale. The vibration of spirit is at such an infinite rate of intensity and rapidity that it's practically at rest. Just as a rapidly spinning, moving wheel seems to be motionless. And at the other end of the scale, there are gross forms of matter whose vibrations are so low it seems to be at rest. Between these poles, there are million upon millions of varying degrees of vibration. From corpuscle and electron, atom and molecule, worlds and universes, everything is in vibratory motion. This is also true in the planes of energy and force, which are but at varying degrees of vibration, and also on the mental planes, whose states relied upon vibrations, and even on the spiritual plane. An understanding of this principle, with the appropriate formulas, enables Hermetic students to control their own mental vibrations as well as those of others. The masters also apply this principle to the conquering of natural phenomena in various ways. He who understands the principle of vibration has grasped the scepter of power. The principle of polarity. Everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same, opposites are identical in nature, but different in degrees. Extremes meet, all truths but half-truths, all paradoxes may be reconciled. So let's break that down a bit. Well, the principle of polarity, if we break it down, embodies the truth that everything is dual, that everything has two poles, everything has its pair of opposites, all of which were old axioms. It explains the old paradoxes which have perplexed and confused many people, which have been stated as follows. Thesis and antithesis are identical in nature, but different in degree. Opposites are the same, differing only in degree. The pairs of opposites may be reconciled. Extremes meet. Everything is and isn't at the same time. All truths are but half-truths. Every truth is half false. There are two sides to everything, etc. And it explains that everything, there are two poles, or opposite aspects, and that opposites are really only two extremes of the same thing, which is varying degrees between them. Hot and cold, as though they're opposites, they're really the same thing. The difference is just degrees of the same thing. So if you look at the thermometer and you can discover where heat terminates and cold begins, there's no such thing as absolute heat or absolute cold. So the terms heat and cold indicate the same thing but varying degrees of it. It's just two poles, that which we call heat, a phenomena which we call cold. So same for light and darkness, the same for, well, where does darkness end and light begin? We just don't know. There is no such thing. It's just varying degrees. Hard and soft, black and white, sharp and dull, noise and quiet, high and low, positive and negative. It's the same thing, but it's the other end. And the same principle operates on the mental plane. So let's take a radical and extreme example of love and hate. The two mental states which are apparently completely different. Yet there are different degrees of love and hate. The middle point, which is like or dislike, which shade into each other gradually, so gradually that we don't even know if we like or dislike it, and it's neither either or the other. Or it's just simply degrees of the same thing. So yeah, it is possible, if we use our minds, to change the vibrations of hate to love and love to hate. And so that's transmutation. We'll go into that a bit more detailed soon enough. So you must have had it yourself where you've had transitions between love and hate, and the reverse from hate to love, and so on, and then you will realise that this is accomplished by the use of your will and by hermetic formulas. Good and evil are actually poles of the same thing, and that the art of transmuting good into evil by means of application of the principle of polarity, the art of polarization, it becomes a phase of mental alchemy which has been used by ancient hermetic masters, and of course us, because we are the modern masters of the hermetic principles. So that's what we need to do, understanding that the principles will be able to change one's polarity of thought and that of other people. And I actually believe this. You can call it telekinesis, you can call it anything you want, but I believe that if you do dedicate enough time and effort into this, you can actually master the art of transmutation. We have the principle of rhythm. Everything flows in and out, everything has its tides, all things rise and fall, the pendulum swings, manifests in everything. The swing to the right is measured by the swing to the left, and rhythm compensates. So the principle embodies the truth that in everything there's manifested a measured motion to and fro, a flow and inflow, swinging backwards and forwards, a pendulum-like movement, a tide-like ebb and flow, a high tide, a low tide, between the two poles, which exists in accordance with the principle of polarity described a moment ago. There's always an action and a reaction, an advance and a retreat, a rising and a sinking. This is in the affairs of the universe, the suns, worlds, men, animals, mind, energy, and matter. So this law is manifest in the creation and destruction of worlds, in the rise and fall of nations, in the life of all things, and finally in the mental states of man. And it's with this latter that the Hermeticists find the understanding of the principles most important. So the Hermetic students have grasped this principle, finding its universal application, and have also discovered certain means to overcome its effect in themselves by use of the appropriate formulas and methods. So they apply the mental laws of neutralization. They cannot annul the principle or cause it to cease its operation, but they've learned how to escape its effect upon themselves to a certain degree, depending on the mastery of the principle. They've learned how to use it instead of being used by it, and so this and similar methods is the art of the Hermetist. Hermetics and the master of Hermetics polarizes himself at the point which he desires to rest, and then neutralizes the rhythmic swing of the pendulum which would tend to carry him to the other pole. So all individuals who've attained any degree of self-mastery do this to a certain degree, more or less unconsciously, but the master does it consciously and by use of his will to attain a certain poise and mental firmness which is impossible of belief on the part of the masses who are swung backwards and forwards like a pendulum. So it's basically out of control, whereas the master fully in control. So this principle and that of polarity have been studied closely by using the Hermetic methods and counteracting, neutralizing and using them for an important part of mental alchemy. The principle of cause and effect. Well, every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause, everything happens according to law, and chance is but a name. The law not recognized, there are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. So this principle embodies the fact that there's a cause for every effect and an effect from every cause, and it explains that everything happens according to a law. Nothing ever merely happens. There's no such thing as chance. So there's various planes of cause and effect, the higher dominating the lower planes, still nothing entirely escapes the law. So the Hermetic students understand that art and methods from rising above the ordinary plane of cause and effect to a certain degree are mentally rising above a higher plane, that they become causes instead of effects. So the masses of people are carried along obedient to the environment. You've got the blue pillars and the simps and so on, and they're affected by the wills and desires of others that's stronger than themselves, suggestion and other outward causes such as mainstream media and women's behaviour and what have you. But the masters rise to the plane above and dominate their moods, their characters, qualities and powers, as well as the environment surrounding them, and become movers instead of pawns. So they help to play the game of life instead of being played and being moved around by the will of others and by their environment. So MGTOW use these principles instead of being used by it. So the masters obey the causation of the higher planes, but they help to rule it on their own plane. So this statement is considered a wealth of Hermetic knowledge. So read it if you can. It's the principle of gender, everybody's favourite. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and its feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. So if anyone wants to deny that, then a bit silly. And so this principle embodies the truth that there's gender manifested in everything. Masculine and feminine principles are always at work, and this is true not only of the physical plane but the mental and the spiritual plane. Now on the physical plane, the physical principle manifests itself as sex, and on the higher planes it takes higher forms, but the principle is ever the same. No creation, physical, mental or spiritual, is possible without this principle. An understanding of laws will throw light on many subjects, but for now, the principle of gender works in the direction of general regeneration, creation, everything. It's got the two elements of principle. So this great principle within it, him or her. Now every male thing has a male element also. Every female contains it also, the male principle. And if you understand the philosophy of the mental and spiritual creation, generation and regeneration, you must understand that to study this Hermetic principle, it contains the solutions to many mysteries of life. And so we caution you that this principle has no reference to the many base, pernicious, degrading, lustful theories, teachings and practices, which are taught under the fanciful titles and are basically a prostitution of the great natural principle agenda. So such base revivals of the ancient infamous forms tend to ruin the mind, body and the soul, and that the Hermetic philosophy has ever sounded the warning note against these degraded teachings, which tend toward lust, perversion of nature's principles. So if you seek such teachings, you must go elsewhere for them, because there's nothing for you here like that. And on those grounds, I think it's time to end the stream, and I think we've covered a bit of ground there, and hopefully the sound was not that awful. We managed to make it through the stream, and I'd like to thank you all for joining me here tonight.